I was very sure that I don't want to join my dad's business.
When you started the business, you thought of and you got a partner along, and this partnership has been going for almost 14-15 years now. How do you make the partnership work?
Praveen was definitely one of the guys. I reached out, he was doing very well too. He didn't even think, he just said, if it's you who is starting, I'm joining. A few of our customers have become unicorns, fantastic companies, acquired by companies like Microsoft. Being just part of these projects has been given us a lot of joy. In any kind of business, either you have to reach out to them or they need to reach out to you.
Correct.
Right? So now, how to make this happen? There are multiple ways.
Welcome to the Tales of Pursuit podcast, or the Top Podcast. This is where we talk about the stories of people who have done something incredible, who have built something exceptional, and which most of us would think is impossible. Today we are going to be diving deep into the journey of Mr. Dikshith Rai. He is the co-founder of CodeCraft Technologies. It's a company that has been running for the last 14 years from Mangalore, who have been working with clients from across the globe. They have built incredible solutions. They have had incredible clients and successes across geographies. They have grown from a very small team sitting in a bedroom of 3 people to more than 200 people now, with specialization across multiple segments of tech, from AI to software to everything. They started at a time where software was just booming, and now they have done something incredible. So welcome to this podcast, and I hope you learn something, and I'm sure that I have definitely learned a lot out of this. Hi Dikshith, welcome to the Tales of Pursuit podcast.
Hi Arjun.
I'm so glad that you're finally here. I think we have been going back and forth for a very long time as to when we'll be able to finally meet and talk, and finally that day is here. So I'm very
glad to
happy.
be here.
Okay, so basically, see, as the name suggests, right, Tales of Pursuit, this is about the story of people who have achieved something that the world would say is success, right? Because the more I talk to people, their understanding of what success is and what the rest of the world is very different. So as per what the whole world sees and what I see, I believe that you have achieved so much of success in your career. So we just want to learn about you, understand who you are, what went into the making of Dikshith, and how did you build the company that you have built today, right? So it's going to be a simple conversation. It's going to be a two-way. So I'll probably share some of my insights, you share your insights, and we're just going to talk.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, so to start off with, I would like to go way back to to your childhood, and how was it? Who was Dikshith as a child? What about your parents? Were you exposed to business right from the beginning? Or were there any signs right from your childhood to say that, okay, maybe someday I'm going to start a business? So tell us a little bit about how it all started for you.
Yeah, so I'm born and brought up here in Mangalore. My dad was a businessman. We had this company called Navadurga Motors, buses, a fleet of buses.
Okay.
I did have exposure to business in certain, though I was not involved in the business, but I saw my family, my dad, his brothers, probably in the 80s, they went on to build one of the biggest fleets here in the Mangalore region. So I've seen them,
okay,
but never involved, never been involved, right? Very active in sports.
Okay.
Played different kind of sports in school, and that's it. I mean, business-wise, I admired a lot of business people. I like the idea of being able to influence something, making money at a very early age, but that's it, nothing beyond that.
So after that, you started with you did your studies, and then you went into a job, right? So your first job, I think it was at Robosoft.
Yeah, the only job.
Yeah. So what happened over there? So the reason I'm asking is because, was that very important, getting into your first job? Was that very important into you deciding that, okay, you know what, I'm going to build a business in this segment? Was that somewhere that influenced a lot, or was it just because, you know, I didn't had nothing to do after my graduation, so I did this? So what about it?
So job definitely was very important to build the skills. So for me, the first batch that I was part of the first batch to be placed in campus.
Okay.
So that's a first company that came to our campus. Till then I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, though I was studying.
Okay.
But I took up the interview, went well, got selected. There were about 60 students from different colleges, different degrees. Student project. I put in a lot of. I started becoming very serious in life after that. That's for sure.
Okay.
Right. The sense of doing something on my own came there. Before that, it was though I used to talk about a few things. I was very casual, but I think I became very serious. I saw so many people so good in whatever they do. It motivated me to work harder.
Okay.
Stretch myself, build skills. Our project actually happened to be the best project
in college,
in all the students across different colleges in that company. In the student project, right? And the CEO of the company picked me to work on the first product of the company.
Oh wow!
So I worked on the first, second, third product of Robosoft. Yeah.
So and this goes way back, right? So
2007.
2007. So how long did you work at Robosoft, and what, did anything specifically happen for you to decide and say that, I'm done with the job, I'm going to start my own company? Because, a lot of people, as you said, you work with brilliant people, a lot of people are very good at what they do, but it's not everybody who will come out and say that I'm going to start my own company and actually build a successful one. So what was that pivot or, turning point that happened that made you decide that, okay, this is what I'm going to do next?
So my journey there, right? So I worked on 3 products. I asked for a switch to move towards services business because we always build product, and we used to be in office all the time, right? Like probably till 4 a.m., go back to office at probably 8:30, literally leave there, right? Like our whole team was like that.
Okay.
Obviously at times it was like stressful and
hectic,
questions of should I do this, is it required, all that happened.
Okay.
But now when I look back, I'm like the happiest that happened, right? So I keep telling that to people, right? At the moment you might feel it's very stressful, but when you look back, sometimes you feel, okay, because I stretched myself so much,
correct,
I learned all the skills which kind of led to me doing whatever I'm doing, right? But I would say starting a business, 3 years, I did many things, I was part of multiple projects, fantastic company to learn and things like that. At one point, so usually people leave, I always say like 3 reasons, right? You hate your boss, or you kind of, get a better opportunity, or, probably you want to start a great idea.
Okay.
Or, it's just that you just don't want to be in that environment. These are the 3 triggers, right?
Okay.
In my case, sometimes, things get monotonous. And in my case, it was, I was very driven. But for me, it was, I wanted to try something new. And I always had an idea to start a business, right? So I thought it was a right time for me to try something, and I had fantastic bosses. I'm still in touch with them, great friends, been very fortunate that way. So I stepped out, evaluated a few business. I was very sure that I don't want to join my dad's business. That part was very clear.
Okay.
But then I saw, what are my friends doing? Like, all the successful guys, what are they doing? Okay, can I replicate that?
Okay.
And move towards, a successful journey and things like that. I think it just took me 2 weeks for realizing that I don't want to do any of that, and I want to focus on what I am good at, which was programming.
Okay.
And finally, that kind of led to some clarity on probably this is what I want to do.
Okay.
Then just reached out to a few friends, expressed my interest, and that's how it moved on. Yeah.
Wow. So it just took you 2 weeks to decide that, okay, fine, I'm not going to do all of these things. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, it was an easy option actually that time.
Okay.
Because see, when you're very clear about what you're good at, that becomes the easiest option. Right?
Correct.
When you know like few things has too many complications, probably some you are not very inclined towards doing. It's better not move that direction.
Right now, when you're looking back, you can obviously, what do you say, like a confirmation bias. Like that you have taken this decision, so you will give reasoning for it. But back then you were quite young also, right? So when you are that young, would you say that, okay, fine, it was the risk that you were willing to take and saying that let's see what happens, or was it more from a very thought out perspective saying that no, I'm going to stick to this, I'm going to make this work?
It was a mix of everything, a very strong feeling that it's the right time to start, confident with your own skills. I think that's very important. I keep telling that to everyone, right? As long as you're good at something, you'll do something, right?
Yeah.
It was a mix of everything. In fact, my dad was not happy me quitting. So he said business is very difficult. We even had a conversation. I still remember end of the conversation, he was angry and then he was laughing, right? So he kind of told me that, business is very difficult. You're doing so well in your job. Why don't you just continue and things like that. And I just asked him one question. If you thought that many years ago, probably we wouldn't have had this conversation in this house, because they came from like nothing, right? Like very little. So they built everything on their own. And then he just stared at me and he said, okay, I mean, I don't understand what you're doing, but any support, I'll be there. So that's how it started.
Great. Actually, mine also was very similar to that.
Okay, fantastic.
Because I was in the merchant navy, so I used to sail, right? So, and I was making a pretty hefty salary back then.
Yeah.
So, and then coming...
that's a hard one to leave.
Yeah, and then coming home and telling my parents that I'm going to start a digital marketing company. And at that point, nobody knew what digital marketing was.
Correct.
So, yeah, it was a very hard sell. It took almost a year for them to be convinced that, okay, he's doing something. Until then, they didn't even know if I was doing anything. It's just like I was inside a room and coming back. So it was very hard for them. But now I hope they are happy with the the decision. So you didn't start alone also, right? So the thing is, when you started the business, you thought of and you got a partner along, and this partnership has been going for almost 15 years now.
Yeah.
So how did you choose that partner, and how do you make the partnership work? Like, what is the effort? Because like marriage partnership is also, I'm sure there is a lot of give and take. So how did you choose and how did you make it work?
For me, if you see my leadership team, my partner and I have two other very strong leaders, or in fact, like many people in my team, I've had a good moment, like something I remembered, for example, my partner Praveen, one of the finest techies, even today, he's best at what he's doing, right?
Okay.
I remember when he was interviewed for our team, my lead actually came to our the wing that we were sitting, and he said, this is the best interview I've ever taken, and I want this guy in my team, right? I remember that moment. Praveen used to work like me, equally hard.
Okay.
He used to always be in, fantastic guy. I mean, even today, he's the best, right? I remember one conversation, like usually during appraisals, it's a very common thing. How much did you get? What are you doing? So we all, gather in a cafeteria, evening snacks, making fun of each other. That's a relaxation time, right? So we had a much bigger team joining that. And I'm like having my evening snack. Everyone are discussing. I am not discussing about my hike, and there is only one person who is not discussing hike. So I still remember when I was paying for whatever we were eating, I asked him, how come you never spoke? He said, it doesn't matter. I enjoy work. So that thing remembered, I still remember. If I'm remembering, I forget many things, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm remembering these few moments, so that means it was like it really helped me make that decision.
Okay.
So Praveen was definitely one of the guys. I reached out. He was doing very well too, and I just shared this idea that I am doing this, and I have this idea, and do you think you would be interested in joining me? And he didn't even think, I feel, right? He just said, if it's you who is starting, I'm joining. And I had no plans. So I just told him, I don't know where it will go, but we'll do well.
Okay.
Right? We were very confident about our skill. There were very few people who did what we did that time, iOS development. Then there is another guy I reached out, my very good friend from my college days, Mithun, and he also was a very good techie. We did our student project together. He was my project partner. Okay. So he was doing well. He was in the US at that time. I think he was in India for a short time. I kind of convinced him. So these two guys finally agreed to join the bandwagon, and it just continued. I mean, even today, like I have Yul, who is part of my team. He is also one of the very special. I had some, I was working on one. I wanted to automate something, and my team kind of was telling me why we couldn't do it, and probably Yul overheard. He was not even part of our team. So
back in Robosoft?
Yeah, back in Robosoft. Yeah. Then he joined quicker. So when we started in Bangalore, this is like many years after we started the company, I reached out when he was in quicker, when we were setting up a Bangalore office. So but I remember the olden days, right? Correct. So I remember this guy just like standing from his seat, and he's calling me, Dikshith, I was overhearing you saying you wanted to do something. Is this what you wanted to do? And I was like, wow. Like I remember that. So when we started a Bangalore office, so I kind of invited him. I like, now we are setting up in Bangalore. You're in Bangalore. Do you think it's the right time? And he also, it's been over 9 years. He's leading few of the best. He's also leading our AI practice right now. Then my design head also, he's my school friend. So I've heard that he's been doing amazing work at Bosch, and been chasing him for a while. I think he took some time. Because he was always traveling. He was in US, he was in Germany, doing very well in what he was doing. Then finally one day he reached out saying, hey, I think it's right time. So these are the things, so my leadership team is like fantastic guys. And I think it's just a bonding, the way we function. We agree on many things. There are few things probably we don't, but we have put everything in place, right? This is how we are going to take this. Very first meeting, first day that we kind of started our company, we had a meeting on telling what each one should be doing. And if we have conflicts, this is how we are going to take decision. That was the first meeting.
So that was led by you?
Yeah, it was led by me.
What, if you don't mind, like how do you decide when you have a conflict? How exactly does it go? Does it go as a vote, or it's more of merit?
It was very easy because we did very little then. So we were 3 guys who kind of were part of that meeting. So usually obvious thing is like 2:1, right? Like 2 people decide, and the decision is taken. Here we kind of said the third person had to be convinced. So all the 3 will agree and do it. Even if we don't agree, the 2 people have to convince the third person, and all the 3 have to agree. And there were like few other things. When it comes to business, it was me. When it comes to certain engineering, it was Praveen, and few other things, Mithun. So we gave that also. When it comes to a certain vertical. You have an upper hand of making
Okay.
that decision. But all the three have to agree.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how it started. But now I think pretty much, I think all of us kind of are in the same alignment. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so can you walk us past your, the journey of CodeCraft in the last 14, 15 years? So, are there any major milestones that you remember from, let's say, getting your first client to making your first million, like whatever, right? So, what are your major milestones in the last 14 years?
There are multiple. I kind of, I don't get too excited with milestones or don't feel too sad about missing out on a few things. There are multiple, right? The first thing is we started as a product company, right?
Oh.
We started with a product. We built something. We were demoing it to a few people. That time, more than a product, people liked our skills, right? So everywhere we were presenting our work, people, one thing they are, can you do this for us? Can you do this for us, right?
They came up with their own problems.
Yeah, so every time it was more of that. And at some point we thought probably that's a good thing, because see, for us it was very simple. When we started, there were very few iOS developers, right?
Correct.
So it made more sense that we kind of try that out, and because when you're in that situation, when the demand supply, I mean, end of the day, business is demand and supply, right?
Correct.
When there is more supply and less demand, then you're in a not so good state.
True.
When there is a lot of demand and very little supply, you're in the best possible. I mean, if you're skilled, and we had proven our skills, things like that. So for us, it was that time, for that particular thing, was relatively easier.
Okay.
I still remember. I think we did get an inquiry for building a game that was, one of, I think it is like the top 3 gaming companies in the world.
Oh.
So one of my friend met somebody in Chengdu, China, in some conference, and this is an American company, and they were struggling to build something. Their Facebook game, which had, I think then it was 570,000 users or something like that. It was a big number. It was like a Farmville kind of game. It was called Castle & Co.
Okay.
They had a huge India team in Pune. So they were struggling to bring it on a phone because a lot of restrictions then, 24 MB RAM. So anything more than that, game used to crash. And these were all heavy in terms of the sprites and objects and things like that.
Okay.
So they struggled for almost 8 months, and they were like, my friend kind of met them, and he said, like, I know a team which probably can do something about this. And that inquiry, and we delivering, first month we actually showed them something which gave them a lot of confidence. 3 months we kind of pretty much got it ready. Then the project went to more than a year. I think that was one of our, I would say, validation kind of moment, more than anything. Because somebody thought it was impossible with such a big workforce. And we made it happen with super optimization. Right? So I think that was one of the validation for us. And then we happened to build a lot of connections in the US. And that, everything went through reference. Then, we got customers everywhere, Japan, US, and multiple moments, right? So one of our applications we launched during the Fuji Rock Festival in Japan. 2019 Super Bowl, when the first game happened at Mercedes-Benz Falcon Stadium. We were pretty much managing it from our office here. Multiple, right? Multiple, and we've done some fantastic projects for customers around the world. Few of our customers have become unicorns, fantastic companies, acquired by companies like Microsoft. Being just part of these projects have been like given us a lot of joy. Yeah. So multiple things like that. Then obviously small milestone like getting our first office. All these things were there. Multiple, series of good moments.
So right now, how many people do we have at CodeCraft?
We are about 200 plus right now. So the kind of work that we do, we don't need a lot of people.
Okay.
We work with innovation teams of very large companies. So usually the teams are lean.
Okay.
Right, but the output, which also gives good margins, profitability, and things like that. So for us, our focus always has been that what's our bottom line, what's our EBITDA. We always kept it like really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then you are the person who was looking after the business aspect of the whole organization.
Yeah. The business, I think founders need to have that to like till the company reaches a certain stage. It is always because when you started, you had some idea, right? And that clarity is very important. If founders don't have that clarity, it brings business as is has a lot of challenges.
Correct.
Not having that clarity brings many more challenges which you don't want to deal with. So yeah, I think initially that is how it works. Yeah, for us it has worked very well.
Awesome. So as you said, business do come with a lot of challenges, right? And in this 14 years of journey, I'm sure you must have had some really hard, hard moments where you are stuck, between a very difficult situation and a very, very difficult situation. So do you remember any of those situations where, you feel like, okay, fine, you were wondering why the hell did I do this or why the hell did I get into this? Were there any situations like that where you felt like this is so hard? And how did you, what happened? How did you get out of it?
I think business challenges do happen. It's not just business, right? Any kind of work, personal life, everything is dynamic, right?
Correct.
It's not just you who creates that whole situation, right?
Correct.
Sometimes it is out of your control, but it affects you. So I think overcoming that is a very important skill which automatically you kind of build over time based on your experiences. So yes, we did have multiple challenges. I mean, few things, when you talk to a very large company which is like probably $30 odd billion, when we went there for a meeting, we didn't even know how to present, right? Like how do you kind of present to such a big company? And it's a city. When you go there, their office is not one building, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole area. And you come from a small city, you don't know how to. So but then they invited us for a reason. I mean, they have options to work with everyone, right?
Correct.
But end of the day, they have invited you out of their country. You're like in India, Mangalore, and that means they've seen something that we bring to table. And how to. So I still remember when I went there, we discussed about one particular. They wanted on today. Things like Netflix are very popular. This is like many years ago. They were planning to do something similar on a platform called Roku. And we were more of iOS, Android, and we didn't do Roku. But they had a confidence that we can do it, right? So when we went there for a meeting, I still remember I was like, how am I going to convince them that we are the best partner? So the best way to do it is build that before you go. And show them that we already built, right? So they knew that we could do it, right?
Okay.
So we quickly got one equipment. I think we had some time to prepare. We downloaded the SDK, built the application. So for me, the thing is when I'm in the meeting, I cannot install that app because you need to connect it to TV. So we just recorded the whole thing.
Okay.
And I kept that as a backup, right? So if nothing works out, I'm going to bring that up, right? And then I prepared a presentation which was just 4 slides. Then I prepared another presentation which was about 15 slides because I didn't know what would happen there.
Okay.
And I don't even know like what would be the setup, right? Like formal, informal. So I had an iPad where I had only 4 slides. So things like that. So I walked into that. So I was like prepared like 2-3 different things. So that one moment, right? So then as soon as the conversation started, one of our project the customer just loved it, and it went into a very friendly environment. So it kind of eased everything for us as well. And then I showed them that, hey, we kind of built, and they were like, they've never seen somebody build it so quick, right? So they already knew that this is a partner we want to work. So it took off. So we have many moments, right? And challenging one is that, presenting. Another thing is like negotiating contract. They had put terms that we've never heard of it before, right? Like few $1 million in terms of insurance, and our revenue was like nothing then, right? And I was trying to tell, because supply chain, these guys don't talk, right? And they don't care about who you are. They treat you like any other company.
Correct.
So, but we got a lot of support, I would say, right? So one of the senior VPs or EVPs just called me. It's like, Dikshith, what's holding up? I said we had some insurance clause which I don't think so we could. So he said, what is that you could do? So I said like $1 million in insurance. He said, okay, don't worry. So he called his supplier. He said like, I want it this way.
Okay.
I want to go ahead. I want this project to start on Monday. Do what you can do. Then immediately I got, because for me it was very hard to have that conversation. Then that lady called and she said, hey, so and so, let's do
Sorted
it.
Now.
So then for me to figure out how to do it and all that, it happened. We got a lot of help, I would say, right? Now that, and then there was transactions. We've never done, transaction from US here. Then we had to file few US, IRS filing and all that. You cannot go wrong with that. So learning all that, it was too much of learning. And at one moment, I still remember we had a very large customer, and like every other, we were too excited building stuff. We never really bothered chasing them for payments.
Okay.
And they kind of defaulted a huge amount, right?
Okay.
The situation, should we stop or should we continue?
Stop with the project or start with the company?
Stop the I mean, it was pretty much as good as it would have pulled a lot of things down.
Okay.
And we had a lot of I would not say lot, we had a few situations like this.
Okay.
But I think all these moments was so important at that stage because it kind of shaped us in some way, right? So how should we do this conversation? We have to be very clear, and when to say yes, when to say no, things like that. So yeah, I think there were multiple moments like that, tough situations where there is nobody to help. True. Right? And you have to make a decision, and you don't know what is right? Yeah. But then I think that is when what people say gut instinct. You just you do what is right, and that decision will take you in some direction.
As you said, very difficult situations. But wasn't there any time for you to think that, I already have the skill set, I have this experience, I have all of these accolades with me, I can just stop it and just probably get a job and get paid a lot better. So was there ever a thought of, quitting all of this and getting into some company? I'm sure people must have offered you also jobs.
No, I did, the first 2-3 years, a lot of people, whenever I used to go for meetings, people used to offer me jobs, right? So it happened multiple times, right? And that's very common, right? Like obviously that's common, I feel. I think quitting and going back to work, in our case what happened, we picked the right path. So we didn't have to, and so I always keep telling people, right, as long as you're relevant, you will be in business, right? Okay. The day you feel you're not relevant, then instead of feeling bad about why things are not going the way it should, I think it is better to see like how do we again become relevant, right? So for example, in a technology space, things keep changing very fast, right? Earlier it was iOS, then Android, and today college kids can do it so well. then came the cloud transformation, then the design, today the AI and things like. So I think as long as you stay relevant, I think we always, so I keep telling everyone this, right? Earlier, I've seen my parents also in business, what happens sometimes when you start a business, right? It's like the best business to start, right? It generates a lot of cash, there's a lot of relevance, and over time, many more people do the same thing.
Correct.
So again, the demand supply thing. So every 10 years, you have to sit back and think, not emotionally be like tied to a business, right? Because end of the day, why do you do a business? Is it the emotion aspect or to make money, right?
True.
As long as you're clear with that, I mean, this is my identity, I have to do this, then it's different, right?
Yeah.
But if it is to make money, then you have to sit back and see, am I still making that kind of thing, or is there some change that needs to happen? Am I a good person to run this company? Should I bring someone else, right? But today I would say every 2-3 years you have to do this. I think it's very, very, because you're questioning fundamentals, right? So I think as long as you keep doing that, and instead of being very upset about the answers, how do we solve it, right? If you go in that path, momentary, I think feeling good or bad, sometimes you try to do something, it doesn't go that way. All that keeps happening, right? But obviously that's not the end of the road. So yeah, so this is
okay, so the thought, like, it's like, okay, let me just reevaluate the situation, let me see how to be more relevant, instead of looking at a bad situation as something as, okay, I need to give up now.
So multiple, see, those momentary moments, everyone, like in your personal life, in your job, in your business, it keeps happening, right? Because when you're expecting something and that doesn't happen, it's a very common emotion that everyone feels, right? It doesn't need you to be in a business or like a job or like right?
Correct.
So the outcome is little different from what you have decided. So I think it is for us to be very, rational about those things. I mean, emotionally, those things keep happening multiple times.
Correct. So, taking a step back and saying what can I change within myself, rather than telling that I'll just get out of this whole situation altogether. Right? So I think that would solve most of the problems, because most of the problems are started and it ends with us only.
So I think it is very important. So see, multiple, right, challenges happen. Your delivery goes really bad, or the client's expectation was very different from what you have delivered, or that may be because of you have not understood
what they want,
or they are not clear about what they want also sometimes.
Correct.
Right? Or multiple reasons. So I think all these situations can be solved in multiple ways. So the way you do your conversations with them, making sure you have understood, making it very formal, there is an acknowledgement. See, I mean, it also depends on the scale of the project. If the project is for 2 days, then probably, you rather do mistakes and learn. But if the project is slightly long term, it is very important to set expectation very clear, agree on it, and then move forward.
True. So, looking back at your journey itself, so what do you say? What does it take to actually be successful?
There's no formula.
So what kind of dedication or hard work or sacrifice is required? Because everybody wants to, but not everybody does get it. So is discipline or habits very important, or luck also? I'm sure luck has a good part to play in it. But what do you say? What goes behind success?
So I always keep telling this, right? A dream without action always remains as a dream, right? A dream with action can become reality, right? That is where the luck factor also works, right? But action is the main part, right? And when I say action, if you want to start something, I think it's very important first you have the skills. Specifically, see, I mean, product and services, the founders who start the product startup, probably the focus has to be, obviously everyone needs to understand the customer, but ensuring the product is so good that it sells by itself is very important. For a services company, the expectation is from you, right? Like the founders, I mean, why do people work with you, right? Because you can solve some problem, right? you having that skill is the most important part, right? So I have this conversation with my employees also, like, I ask them, like, what do you want to, where do you see yourself? Few people want to start their company and all of that, which I really like, right? But I always tell them, first build that skill that is required, right? Because when you have the skill, automatically you're a little more confident than others, right? Because you know how things work, right? And that confidence also helps in solving problem, right? The thing with me, right? So when I used to go to initial meetings and people used to work with large companies, I thought one of the differences is, when people spoke to few managers from very large companies, they used to say, hey, my team will have conversation, do things. But I used to say, I'll do it, right? And this is how you solve it. I had a background of being a decently good programmer.
Correct.
And I kind of told, this is how you solve it. This is exactly how you do it. This is how much time it takes. This is how much it would cost right there. And that is how people like to solve problem, right?
Yeah.
And then I used to also deliver. I used to go really, I always say working with founders are the most difficult part, right? Today when people join me, I always caution them when they have to work around me. So the passion sometimes, right? I'm not aggressive, but sometimes I've seen when you work with founders, other founders also, sometimes the passion changes into aggression and things like that. But you understand because you see that you're also on the same boat. So I think first part is being very confident about your skill is very important. Building that skill is the most important part. And then I think everything else falls in place. Yeah.
But the thing is, skill is one part, and then the business is a whole another part, right? Because there are so many aspects of it, like as you said, like, from hiring the right people, contracts, negotiations, finance, profit and loss, balance sheets. Like when you look at all of that, this just feels like a very small part. So how do you look at it? How do you manage the whole gamut of all these other things are important to support, this part, the operations that is actually delivering. So how does somebody who is so passionate about the skill grow a company with all these other things that are attached to it?
Yeah. So I think skill is the most important, non-negotiable piece of this whole equation, right?
Yeah.
Others are also skill, but you learn that over time. In our case, what we did is, first 2 years, we were all programming, sitting, coding, delivering. I still remember, he's still our customer. One of the customers called me at 4 a.m. in the morning saying something is not working. And I said, okay, just give me some time. I woke up, fixed the bug, checked in, and I told him just check it, and then went back to sleep. He's still our customer, by the way, right? One of our fantastic customers. So skill is definitely very important. But after 2 years, what we did is I told, we kind of split that whole thing. I asked Praveen he was definitely very good in programming. So I said, you stick to this. The business aspect, all this piece of dealing, negotiations, breaking my head on few other things, I will take care of that. Obviously, when you're learning something new, it is always challenging, right? Correct. So you can go either ways, right or wrong. So your decisions you make there. But I think founders have to, if founders don't have that thing, it is going to be an extremely difficult journey and a very painful death. Right. I think these are skills you have to have. You should be very clear about, okay, I'm ready for this pain. I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to solve it. Right. That mindset has to be very clear. Yeah. So all these you learn over time, and few of them you probably do some mistakes. You learn. I think everyone is done the same way, and then you kind of end up meeting few people. See, at some point, right, when you kind of have enough money in the bank and things like that, then you can bring in experts to guide you through it and things like that. But initially, you have to do all of it by yourself.
there are so many decisions that you have to take, and there are so many people that give you advice, right? So some of it is free advice. It can come from friends, family, or people, employees, or whoever it is. And obviously there is some paid advice, right? It can be your consultants, it can be your lawyers, it can be all of these other people that you work with. But how do you decide whose advice you should take, and do you have any form of thought process saying that, okay, fine, maybe this makes sense, because when they're talking, all of them, not all of them, but okay, some of them do make sense. But how do you see, okay, fine, this makes sense, this is what I should implement, and this does not make sense? So how do you come to that acumen?
I think over time you build that skill. One thing is how I make my decisions, right? So I listen to everyone, right? Different people have different perspectives, but end of the day, decision has to be yours, right? If that matters to the company, it matters to your own, the way you are and things like that. As long as you have to put in a lot of effort in understanding everything that people have told you, right? And gauging what is right, what is wrong, right? And finding that balance of this is the best thing to do, it has to be your own decision. And see, I tell sometimes in life, you are in crossroads where every decision is right. There is no wrong decision, right? So it's like, you just see, you go to a junction of the road, so every probably path leads you to wherever you have to go. But the decision you make then or at that spot kind of decides where you will be at what time, right? You go from here, probably you'll take 10 minutes extra. You go from here, you probably might reach in 5 minutes sooner, but with lot of potholes, right? And probably another decision may take you 1 hour, right? But there is no wrong decision, right? It's the comfort that you have in making that decision, because many times decisions are based on multiple things that maybe a lot of people may not understand and only you would understand. Why? Because it would involve cost, it would involve various other things and things like that. So I think there is no wrong decision, but I think that's a very important skill to have in a founder. And then you accept whatever the outcome is, you accept that outcome and keep moving forward.
Correct. No, it makes a lot of sense, right? When you look at any point of life where you're making a decision, like as you say that if you look at it as all the decisions that I'm going to take are going to be right, the problem comes when you're thinking that you're going to make a wrong decision. That is when that analysis paralysis happens and you're just thinking, should I, not should I, and just wasting time in taking a decision. But taking a decision, I would not say quickly, but thoughtfully. But and after that, owning that, saying that, okay, fine, whatever the results have come, now I'm going to deal with the results. Like not be upset with the results that are coming, because maybe because of the potholes, I'll be like, oh shit, I shouldn't have taken this road, I should have taken another road. That normally happens. But if we don't do that, I think then all the decisions are going to take us to the destination, which is where we want to reach at the end.
Correct. Yeah, that's true. So I keep telling my team also right now, because I'm building the next set of leaders and things like that. So take enough time in thinking, but once you've decided on something, execute it quickly, because if you fail fast, right? Don't see, the problem is many people think for a very little time and then they take too much time in execution. Right? You end up making mistakes and then more mistakes and more mistakes, and then you justify that mistake. So that is going to be a very a very painful process. So give it a good time. If you're not very comfortable with the decision, then probably it's okay. I mean that much independence you should have. Like let me take more time or whatever. Or if there is a time, it's time bound, then you have to make the decision. Then you accept whatever the outcome is. But if you have more time, it's not like a time critical. Take enough time to think, but execute quick.
At what time in a founder's journey, let's say in terms of age of the company or revenue or profitability, you can bottom line, should I start looking at getting these experts in for the other aspects of business, not my core function, that is anyways there, but for these other aspects, let's say HR or finance or whatever, legal, for all of these different things, at what point should I start is there a thought process of saying that, okay, this is the right time that you should get? If you take anything longer than that, probably you're just taking too many things on yourself, and now your decisions can have much bigger impact, negative impact than the smaller ones that was there before.
See, every decision you make will have an impact.
True.
For example, delegation is not always a good thing, right? So many people think, you should start delegating things quickly, and, it is, as long as you know why you're doing it and that person understands what the role is, it is good. But many times we hire someone and assume they know what to do. And then there is always a friction between you and them. Right? Like, okay, but I thought it should be like this. The person is doing whatever they think is right, but that is not right for you.
Yeah.
All those things will happen. So you being very clear, this is a right time for me to kind of bring in a person to do this job, because I need this free time to do something much bigger, is a right time. There is no right time in terms of revenue, in terms of years of experience, nothing, right?
Okay.
So if you feel that you are doing something that, by using that same time to do something else, the impact on the company, on yourself will be much greater, then I think that is a moment that you need to try and experiment bringing in someone else, right?
And when you say impact, that means financial impact on the company, right?
Any kind of impact, right? So see, I mean, obviously in a long term it will always be a financial impact, but in a short term it can be anything, right? For example, you want to focus on building a product, or you want to focus on building a new service line, which probably will become big 3 years down the line.
Correct.
So in a short term it may not be really revenue,
Correct.
but that's very important, right? And you need to focus more on doing that. By doing all of these things, you're not able to do it, right? That is a decision. You are the best person to do that job, right? So you focus on that, and other things which can be handled by another colleague of yours, probably bring in somebody
else.
Yeah. Or maybe you're not the right person to do the job itself. You feel that probably I am not skilled to do this job. I have been doing it because there's no one else, but probably I'm not the best person to do the job. There are better people. Then you bring the better people.
Yeah, but you also need to have the money to pay the better people.
Of course. So see, all these things, right? I mean, has is it sustainable? Bringing that one extra person for 6 months is of no value. Then it will be, you would have lost touch of how to do the job also.
True.
So you need to be very clear about that. It has to be any decision you make has to be sustainable. You make that decision, take little more time, it's okay. But as you should be clear why you are doing it. So those things are, if you don't have the money, if you don't have, it's okay, suffer a little more, right? So I think that is how you need to. Just because somebody else is done, I think it's not the best way to do it.
How did you, as you said, a lot of things happened for you from a word of mouth perspective. So the whole, how would somebody be able to break into an international market, like how you did? Because a lot of your clients were all coming from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
That was staying in Mangalore. So how can another company or somebody who wants to do that, what can they do right now to make sure that they'll also be able to be exposed to such opportunities? Yeah.
So it's not that we didn't want to build here. We want to build here. It's just that I even today I do quite a bit of traveling, meeting customers. Meeting them virtually if I'm not traveling. I do a lot of these things, right? People only see what have converted. They don't see everything else that is going to happen, right?
Okay.
So sometimes the conversations happen for over 2 years before a big account is converted, right? So you have to, it happens, it's a part of so you have to meet, end of the day, right? Whatever you're doing, probably there are 15 other people who can do it, right? The question you need to ask yourself before you ask your customer, why is that person will select you to work with them, I think that question you need to ask yourself very clearly. Is it the cost that because you're in India, Mangalore, are you going to bring the cost down? Then that is what you're going to pitch. Is it the skill? Is it your dominance in the expertise that you have? Like, you're very clear that it's not arrogance, but you clearly know that you can do this better than anyone else, and you can demonstrate that. So I think those questions we need to ask ourselves, and based on what all things add really value, that value add you need to keep presenting many times. So in sales, this is something I learned from my previous manager, the concept of BANT, right? Budget, authority, timeline, and need, right? N is for need, right? So this is something we've been doing that, but the concept I just learned a while ago, and while as in it's been a while now. But and it makes so much sense, right? When if there is no budget,
correct,
and you're trying to do something, it will never happen. If there is no need for a person, you are simply pitching some interesting thing, they will say wow, and things like that, right? If they are not very clear about the timeline they have to kind of do this, then this can go forever, right? Should you kind of run after that and things, and if there is no need, then absolutely people will just praise you, right? And if the person authority, right? So if that person doesn't have a decision making kind of power, then probably it would be a very tricky, right? So I think those things you have to kind of gauge very well.
But how will you be able to get in touch with these people, right? So is networking
networking is critical. Yeah. Okay. So see, there are multiple ways, right? So in any kind of business, either you have to reach out to them, or they need to reach out to you.
Correct.
Right. So now, how to make this happen? There are multiple ways. When you reach out to people through somebody that you reach out. You cold
approach.
You reach out, and like there are multiple different ways, right? When you want people to reach out to you, then you kind of start demonstrating your skill in various, it can be conference, it can be social media, because you're in that. So you keep talking about it's something like sometimes you're scrolling on Instagram and you kind of like some product, you end up buying without knowing who built it and things like that, right? True. It's more like that. Why? Because that gave you a very good feeling, right? It's just that. So there are multiple ways of doing it.
What has worked best for you?
For us, it has more. For us, all our businesses have come through referrals. Okay. Our customers referred us to more people. We focused on ensuring we do the right thing to our customers. And we always kind of, they ask us something, but we always try to do what more is actually needed for that whole thing to become a successful thing. And we kind of do that extra. So the bonding is very strong. So they always, whenever they go to their conference, they meet someone, we have referred, we have big customers and our ex-employees. One of our ex-employees he was in some company, he reached out to me and he's like, Dikshith, we have partners here, but I don't think so they're anywhere close to what CodeCraft is. So do you want to talk to my lead or a boss? So I was like, yeah, why not? And then once we had the conversation, we instantly connected. That was a 45 billion euro customer, right? So it can happen, and you need to do the right thing.
Correct.
And I think other things will happen. And you have to meet a lot of people. You have to reach out. I've done all of it, right? Cold reach out. So some people ignore you. These are like part of the thing, right? So all that things happen, right? But once you kind of reach a certain point, I think it becomes much lesser.
So is there somebody that you go to when you're stuck, saying that, if I have a problem, I go to this person or these people so that I'll be able to get the right kind of advice?
It is, I don't have a person as such, but I don't hesitate reaching out to people, right?
Okay.
I also kind of read different things to understand. Sometimes knowledge comes from every kind of, sometimes just having conversations like this, right? So Saturdays, I have few people reaching out for some kind of advice. When you're having conversations with them, you also learn so many things. And I've met so many interesting people in life. So if I have to reach out, I do. I don't hesitate. Right? But many decisions I try to I think there's like so much you've done. So it's pretty much you can take certain kind of decision. Yeah. It needs to make sense. That's it. See, I always say there is no, and there is nothing. See, when you make that decision, right? The simple thing is, at least at that point, it should absolutely make sense, right? You cannot be half-heartedly making some decision, right? Because then it is just like, if you do any decision which is half-heartedly, then probably you would see more failures than success. When you're successful, you'll be very happy. Obviously, all of us will be.
Correct.
But you will start reasoning, I always thought it is not a good thing. So if you have that, I would say a leverage, or an option where you can not go ahead and things like that, I think that's an option I would rather pick up. But if it absolutely makes sense, right, I just go ahead. And after 2 years, you realize, okay, everything that you thought didn't work. It's okay. But that day, it connected with you.
Correct. You
took that decision. So that is more important.
And actually, really nice way to look at it, because any decision that you're going to take, you should be 100% convinced that this is the right person at this moment. Right? It may not be the right decision for everybody. It may not be the right decision maybe tomorrow, but for today, for this situation, this is the right decision. So the whole going back and thinking and feeling bad for yourself, and as you said, right, I think that it bypasses all of that. So
there are so many opportunities, right, which looked amazing, and I've at least 1 or 2 people I spoke to, everyone said we should do it, but I didn't feel that is for whatever reason, some things was different reasons, right? So I have taken that, and when I look back now, I think all the decisions were the best decision of not going ahead, right? So I think you need to be absolutely clear about that part.
See, the thing is, at this time and age where there is funding and investment, equity, there is a big market for it. A lot of people are actually looking out to invest money and to fund. So didn't you ever think that, okay, I should be funding, or I should get investors from outside so that I'll be able to grow? How does a service-based company like yours, also like mine, but mainly like yours, make a decision on, okay, when should I take a fund, who should I take a fund from, should I not, and what should they be looking out for?
First of all, we need to know why we need that fund, right? Just because somebody else is raising money and okay, let me just liquidate, I want to relax, I want a better office, I want a fancy lifestyle. If that's a decision, it's a very dangerous one. It's not just about funding, right? It's also about bringing an advisor or bringing someone at the leadership level. When you bring all these people, you need to be very clear about why you're doing this, right? Or when we are looking to fund, right? So we have invested in a company in the US. In the last 2 years, we've evaluated about 9 companies, invested in 0 out of the 9 for various reasons. 2 were very close to investing. So there, it is very simple, right? Why we were looking for. See, the dynamics of services business is changing, right? So now there are 2 ways you can do this. Either you do a trial and error. So when we started our data science team, we brought in some expert and things like that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So there are a lot of trial and error, right? Another way of doing it is, if you have capital, you see a team which is already doing it, you try to integrate that team and grow fast, right? That is another way of doing it. And now, do you have the money to do it, or do you have to raise the money to do it, right?
Okay.
So if you have to raise the money and do it instead of using your own reserves, so these comes with a lot of ifs and buts. So you need to be very clear, you know, what are the pluses, what are the minuses. So I think that's a right moment. I think when you take that decision, see, when you take somebody else's money, it comes with a lot more, there's a lot more responsibility on your shoulder, right?
True.
And depending on who is investing in you, it also brings in that much pressure into the business, right?
Yeah.
Because end of the day, if that person is also helping you grow the business, it is different. If the person is just giving you money, and that person is putting that money in to multiply that person's money, then you have that much more responsibility, like, because every quarter then you have to show the
results.
So how are you going to do that if you don't have answers to all these things? I think better not to do it, right? But if you are very clear about
the purpose of why you need the money. Okay.
So I mean, if I go to bank, the bank would give whatever 8, 9, 10, 12%. But if I get a partner like this, the opportunity I have is to multiply, and this makes more sense in multiple ways. I think that is what. Otherwise, you can always go to the bank or not do that itself.
Just to continue the point that you already spoke, right? So now that your company has grown, you have enough reserves. So I'm sure a lot more opportunities also would have come, as you said. It might be to start a product, or to invest into a company, or to, I don't know, right? So how do you decide whether I should go ahead or I should not? So like example, let's say, as you said, you spoke to a lot of your friends and they said this is a really good idea. So you did say that, okay, at that moment it did not feel right. I was not 100% convinced, but were there any other principles or thoughts that you had to come to that decision, saying that, okay, because of so and so reasons, or this is how you evaluate an opportunity?
So there are decisions that we have made where we have not invested, and companies have grown much bigger also. So these things do happen. But at that moment, did that make sense to you? I usually look for common sense, right? Like very simple, in a very simplest form, right? Does it make sense to you, and do you feel good about it? So this is how I make my decision.
Okay.
And to validate it, I always discuss it with Praveen, Yul, Raj, and guys. Hey, this is how it is, and this is what I feel. And if I have some confusion, right? So what do you think? And I get their feedback. Sometimes new perspectives help you take better decisions. Or I kind of, it needs to
make perfect sense.
Is there like the common sense decision? All these decisions are, right?
Okay.
So when you know, right, why are you making that decision? For example, you invest simple things, right? You invest your money in stocks or something. You want to multiply your money, right?
Correct.
So what you look for is, can I multiply my money, right? Or if you're investing in another company, right? So you may want some skill, some support from them, or you may want to again multiply your money, right?
Yeah.
So then you should know, can they multiply your money into, what is their plan, right? When you give some money to somebody,
Correct.
what are they going with that? Does that make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense to you, probably you will hold your money back, right?
Correct.
And if that makes absolute sense to you, go ahead with that. It's as simple as that. Sometimes it may not make sense to you, so you hold back, but then they did magic. That also has happened. Those things happen.
Yeah. The tech industry is one industry where the attrition is the worst, because obviously there are so many opportunities. So how do you normally tackle this problem of attrition? Like, I'm sure, and how did you look at it before 10 years back, and how do you look at it now?
Today it's very simple, right? Everyone, when there is a good opportunity, everyone moves on, right? You need to be very clear, right? Simple thing is, if you pay people well, they stay with you. sometimes that is not enough because somebody can pay more than you, and sometimes you cannot pay more because it just doesn't make sense to the business.
True.
Right, because your customers only pay so much. Obviously you want to make some margins, and there are so many people on the bench and so many factors, right? But individually it may matter to people who are with you, and sometimes it may not matter. So there are a few aspects. One is like you need to have enough bench, right? One is like you need to keep cross pollination, like the knowledge keeps to, like everyone needs to learn different skills. There has to be enough training. So we probably are one company where we have a formal training setup.
Okay.
Yeah, the person who picked me from campus, he is like a principal mentor.
Oh wow.
Right now he trains everyone in the company. So we have that training. And I also take personal interest in understanding what people are learning.
Okay.
So I think that thing is very clear, right? So for example, recently there are a few things I'm kind of chasing people to see, are they learning those skills or not? Because I know why those skills are very important to build the next set of leadership. Yeah, so I think training is critical.
Okay.
Fair pay is also good, but that can be, a very subjective kind of topic.
Correct.
If you feel you're underpaying, then you have to correct it. But beyond a point, it's very hard to manage. I think then you need to have enough bench. Right? So dependency has to be minimal. So as long as you're managing these things, I think it is good. Right? And when you are in a space which is hot and lot of the demand is much more than supply, these are very common. Yeah. So when we started, I mean, we were dependent on ourselves, right?
Correct.
So it was very easy.
Yeah.
Right. At least we know we want to.
Not go anywhere.
When we kept on growing, we knew what we wanted, and we know like the fallback is, ourselves. So, and then you have, now in our team we have a few leaders who take all those responsibility on their shoulder. So it just helps. Yeah. So for us, we have managed it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and your L&D function that you have, so have you structured it for every aspect in terms of technology as well as for leadership and communication and all of that, or is it mainly from the technical side of things?
Mostly it is technical. It won't, leadership is, we do take few sessions, but most of it is like doing your job, right? Many times, see, when you grow as a team, right, processes are very important. When you work and when I work, the experience should not be very different. And if it is different, it has to be better, not worse, right?
True.
And for that, setting expectation, what is okay, what is not okay, ensuring the quality is very high, all these things are that itself is a major energy drainer, right? So we focus more on that. Leadership is more on like, because the volumes are much lesser, we do it like in a different way.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we do a few things, we have conversations, we make people think like, competitor analysis and things like that, which gives a perspective of business beyond what you're doing. So those are things, and automatically the kind of solutions that you kind of provide becomes better.
Let's talk about compensation, right? So as a founder, and not just like for you, for you also with your example, but for others, normally, it's all about, let's hustle, let's grind, let's put all of our heart and soul. But the thing is, usually founders, what I've seen is that they don't get paid very well. At least they don't take money at the beginning in the first few years in the company. Yeah. So how did you approach the situation, and what do you think would make sense, for people to, because normally if I'm working really hard and after 3 years, 4 years, I'm still making probably less than the people that I'm paying for, then my motivation to do it also keeps dropping. So how do you approach this, or what suggestions do you have on going about this?
Pay yourself well. So, I mean, initially when we started, we put in some money.
Okay.
Our salary was probably 1/5 of what we were drawing.
Okay.
But we decided salary. We asked like 3 of us, like, what's your commitment? What's your commitment? You know, things like that.
Okay.
And whoever had highest commitment, that became the salary, which was very low, right? Which was still like 1/5 of what we were probably drawing.
Okay.
Luckily, we didn't have somebody with a lot of loans, right? So based on that, right?
Okay.
So we said that is going to be the salary, and we put in money from whatever we had, so that even if we don't earn for the next one, I think we had more than 2 years of just that,
Okay.
right?
Just for the 3 people.
3 people,
Okay.
right? So that's how we started. You know, initially when people joined us also, it was more of, you know, what they get to learn and things like that. You know, they got to, I mean, all the guys, initial guys who joined with us are doing very well in life. So obviously for them, with the salary, that was like the takeaway from us, right? And we put in a lot of passion. We did things ourselves, and we worked harder than anyone. So I think all that motivated the team also. But over time, obviously, in end of the day, right, you need to be very clear. Why am I starting this business, right? Is it to make impact or money? If that clarity you should, if it is for money, then it should
Sure.
there should be enough money in the bank, right? So then you have to draw good salary. There's nothing. I mean, you should never feel demotivated because of salary, right? But you should not take everything out that business suffers, right? I've seen many founders. As soon as you start making money, see, there are 2 kind of problems, right? When you have no money, there is like problem. When you have a lot of money, also there is problem, right?
Okay.
So what happens, many founders, you know, to save taxes and, you know, taxes, and then why should company pay? Anyways, I have to pay. They kind of keep drawing a lot of money out of the business. So we had, you know, written about all these things in the very first. So we will not draw. If you take money, then you have to pay interest to the company and things like that, right? For whatever salary we have agreed. Obviously, we kept on increasing that. Now we kind of draw very good salaries, right? Which definitely we have never got a feeling that the feeling that if we don't get that, there is a problem. So then we have to work harder. Right?
Correct.
So, but I've seen many founders kind of keep drawing money. But what happens when you draw the money from the company, put it in your account? Not everyone is equally disciplined, right? I and you are different personality, right?
Correct.
Suddenly I might get an idea of buying a fancy car or something else, right? And I might but you have managed it very well. Suddenly now company needs money, right? There's not enough money to do a few things. But when I don't have the money, I've already spent it. That's a very bad situation, right? So I think keeping enough money, keeping enough reserves in the company just gives you that cushion or comfort, right? But draw, like over time you should have a very clear cut plan. When you're making enough money, draw enough salary and things like that. So I think we've from no salary, I would not say there was never no salary, very little salary to very good salary we've been drawing.
Before we wind up, we can just talk a little bit about Mangalore, right? So how has Mangalore helped you, positively or negatively? How has it formed CodeCraft Technologies? What role does Mangalore have to play in this whole situation?
I mean, Mangalore is a fantastic place. I think for us, there's no negative. It's always been positive. So when we started, we kind of, there were very few engineers who kind of were good at iOS. I remember from my house, Praveen and me, we took about 60 interviews, our first person hiring, right? Hyderabad, like different. So our idea was wherever we get people, that is where we are going to be.
Oh, okay.
We rejected all of them, right? And we were just not happy with like various aspects. So then we thought, okay, we have to train people, and I mean, this is before even we had our office space. And finally we decided that we are going to train people and build our own team. Mangalore has, I mean, fantastic colleges, ecosystem that way. It has always helped us, right? I think I don't see any negative. I only see a positive aspect. People here, they speak, communication is amazing. Most of them are very good in terms of the skills you need. Very grounded, also culturally very rich city. So all that really adds to the culture of the company, right? So when you build a company in that format, it really helps the company to become a company with a lot of value. So I think for us it has been amazing. We have a bigger team in Bangalore. The only reason that happened is when we kept growing and we need to bring a few senior level people, Bangalore happened very easy. So that is how, we have some next 2 years, we have some good plans to expand in Mangalore.
Okay.
We are already working on it, yeah. But this year I think it will be a little slow. Next year is like some big plans are there.
Awesome. Now the last question would be, if somebody is going to decide today that, okay, fine, I'm going to start my career and I'm going to be a tech entrepreneur, maybe in the services or in the product space. What should be their step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till whatever step? How should they go about their journey right now with everything that you know, with everything that you understood? What would be the best way to start so that you at least have higher chance of succeeding?
I would say product and services is little different. One is like for whatever business you are starting, right? See, having the core skills is the most important part. That is absolutely non-negotiable, right?
And this you will get by working with somewhere else or by working, learning by yourself?
So today people learn all these in college itself, but definitely working somewhere helps. I've seen some fantastic, we worked with few startups from different IITs, and all these guys have worked in large companies. They've like Zetworks, like Venways and few other companies, right? So they've all worked in a few companies. They've understood the problem statement. They've come out, they've built that, and they're doing good, right? So it always helps. End of the day, right? When you're solving a problem, you need to know the problem, right? Just because you're building something, nobody is going to take it from you.
True.
Right? And when you're building a product, depending on what kind of product or service you're offering, you need to know being closer to the customer is the best thing, right? But if your advantage is staying away, for example, like if you're doing an offshore kind of thing, cost arbitrage is the bigger factor, right?
Correct.
So you cannot be in US and
give it at that cost.
The value itself is being away, but you keep going traveling. So that part has to be very clear. Many times what we do, we end up doing a wrong thing for example, if I'm doing a business where the market is not here, right, but I'm trying to sell, right, but there is a need for example, like if you're starting something like a Swiggy, Zomato or whatever it is, or maybe like Urban Clap or something like that. So where your customer and the market is, you have to be close to that. But if you feel there is a bigger market in a tier 1 city, you would rather go and start such businesses there than starting in a tier 2 city. You can expand it to tier 2 city much later, right? Once you have stability, you achieve what you have to achieve and things like that for various reasons. So I think that clarity all of us need to have.
Okay.
So I would say skill non-negotiable. Understanding your customer, what is the value you're bringing to that business, and how is that you can deliver that value is something you should be very clear about. Because otherwise your runway becomes too small. It's a very dangerous thing. So that, and I always feel if you have worked for a few years and then start, it always helps. It just gives you, clarity comes with multiple things, right? Once you are a super intelligent person, you understand whatever. Sometimes it is by experience, you work, you understand, get exposure. I think that is a much better approach, or like a rather relatively easier approach. And over time you will build, but that initial thing, I think that really helps. There are founders who have just out of college, they've done wonders. That is different, right? They're like super skilled and things like that. But I think this exposure always helps you.
And what about co-founders? Is that something that, you know, when you're starting out, you should look out for somebody to complement you or somebody to, you know, work with?
It definitely helps. But today I've seen with the AI era, there are like single man company who have like done wonders. Like if you see, I think even Telegram, right? That's just him who started, then he built the team.
Yeah.
So it depends, right?
Okay.
What is the value you're bringing? It all depends, right? Sometimes business needs multiple people, and always having multiple people helps. I'll tell you, instead of trying to do everything by yourself, when you have multiple people, but bringing multiple people without really knowing who they are can also be a disaster. Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, thank you so much, Dikshith. We had a very long but very, very insightful conversation. There's so much that I have learned out of this whole conversation, and you know what, I just want to sit by myself for some time so that I'll be able to see how I'll be able to implement it in my business and, you know, to make it work. And I'm sure that the people who are watching also would have gotten so many bits and, you know, nuggets throughout this conversation that will help them to be better at what they do too. So thank you so much for opening up, for telling me about you, about your company, and about your thoughts on how somebody should run their business. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting.